Okay, so I just got done recording this video, and I think there's lots of good information in it. It's mostly about installation and the parts that are included with the kit. I really wanted to try to touch base on installing the slider mount brackets, installing the anti-roll bar brackets, and the kind of some of the welding process that goes into it. But I didn't have enough time in this video, and because this thing's already like an hour and 20 minutes long, so I'm just going to make another video that's based on just the welding metal fab end of things and where to kind of place things. So I know I've been asked about it a few times, so I'm going to go ahead and just get some more footage together and just make a whole nother video. So I snuck this little clip in right in the beginning just so you know that that stuff is not actually in this. So lots of install stuff, lots of tips and tricks, and it's still worth the watch. I go over the wheel tub sizes at the end too, so measuring from the wheel mount, the axle flange out to the edge of the wheel tub, and then the interior side, and you can still see that the springs are still an issue on these cars. So this car has the 1.75 inch offset sliders, so it's as much as you can get away with without just being completely custom. So yeah, just there you go. There's a little forward in this video. Enjoy, appreciate your time, and until next time. All right, YouTube, I'm back. So it's a wind day. So I'm sure you've heard of snow days. Well, in Southern California, we have wind days where if the wind is a little bit too fast, we'll just turn all the power off because, whatever. So no work at the shop today because we can't do anything without power. It's not a very useful place to be with the power off. So came to my brother's garage. He has a Tesla wall, so they got power, so I got lights and got the air compressor, and yeah, so I figured I would finally catch up on my YouTube and make this video about the 68 to 74 Novas. So we developed the suspension hop-up kit. I'm just going to coin that name from the S10 and go ahead and cross over to this car too. Anti-roll bar, shock mount, relocation, sliders, and we got both positions offset and centered. So I'm standing underneath this car right now. I'm gonna walk over this way, flip this guy around. So I found this car on Facebook Marketplace. It's pretty clean. Found it maybe a year ago or so, maybe a little longer. And what I went ahead and did is, I think this is a 73. It's a 73 or 74. I'm pretty sure it's a 73. I have a clean California title for it. But I wanted to make sure that everything fit. There's here's the rad fabricated housing for it in all of its beauty. Sorry about the white light in the background. That's just where the window is. But I wanted to make sure that I got my wheel mount surface where I needed it to be. I wanted to make sure that wheels wise, I got everything to fit. So I went ahead, got mini tubs for this guy. We went ahead and installed them. So this car has the DSC mini tub kit installed. And this way we were able to prove that all this stuff would fit. So, we got their upper anti-roll bar mounts welded in right there. I'm gonna grab a tape measure a little later in this video and just go over the measurements that I found. We developed we've been making this same version of that shock mount now for a little while, but I went ahead and developed a little longer one for doing the offset slider. So I'll cover that. I'm gonna just go piece by piece is kind of what my intention is with this video. So yeah, you can see that I went all in on this. This car has a cage in it too. This is the cage that's available on the website. It looks fantastic, it fits great, just like kind of any of our other stuff. Got those slider mount brackets welded in. I forgot to bring slider mount brackets to my brother's house, so you're just gonna have to take my word for them that that's what they look like. Maybe I'll post it in as like a little 30-second edit at the end of this guy. So yeah, so you can see like I got this car. It is really, really straight. It's in really good shape, so I knew it would be a good candidate. It had never been cut on, no quarter panels done to it. It would be a good candidate for making fresh parts. So let's go over here. And here is your parts list. So I'm gonna leave the optional pieces. So sliders are still optional, so I'm gonna leave them over here in the optional pile as well as the traction bar stuff. So here is your 68 to 74 Nova suspension hop-up kit. So like I said, so you can see the difference in the lengths of these shock mounts. So this is if the springs, so if you did not move the springs, so the springs are still in the stock location, it's gonna use this length mount. This is the standard mount that's on the website as well.
it actually worked out. They were able to just repurpose them and they totally work. Here's the longer mount. You can see the difference. So this is basically just taking up the difference between having offset sliders or centered sliders, or an offset shackle like a 1.75 offset shackle versus centered. So you're gonna get a pair of these with the bolts, with the appropriate hardware. You're gonna get a set of these anti-roll bar mounts. So these guys are all 134 wall. These are all 134 11 gauge plate. I've put all these holes in them so you can rosette weld those to the chassis. This is a massive amount of weld surface right there. These are tabbed and keyed into each other. It's just a super nice little piece. Like again, it's made out of 11 gauge. It's just, it's a nice piece. Actually, it's made out of 10 gauge. I think 10 gauge. It's actually 10 gauge. I'm not going to correct that. I'm just going to leave that in the video. So that's 10 gauge or 134, and that's P&O. You know, we go ahead and tumble these guys in ceramic media. They're super nice. Well, I've blabbered on about those so much. Let's just look at this. So you can see that's a lot of weld surface all the way around there. And then I picked this surface of the car because there's a double plate here. This plate is actually doubled against the floor there. So this is like a double and then a triple section there. And then you have this additional piece that's doubled into the frame rail. And then this piece is, you can see, is connected to the floor. You can actually see the floor plate for the cage right there. So this is a pretty darn structural piece of the car. I had to pick somewhere that was going to work, and so I felt like that location is pretty darn strong. There's so many pieces of sheet metal there yeah, it's not going anywhere, especially when you got all these rosettes welding in flat, and plus all that weld surface. So, I mean, you could even come in here if you really wanted to. You could sand all this stuff, weld all this in there, and even add a little bit more strength to it if you so desired. So, yeah, that's the upper anti-roll bar mount. You get a pair of those guys. When you look at it, like I said, I was gonna go over these measurements. The frame rails are super organic and they're not totally centered. So I'll give you the measurements from what I've come up with that actually match the kit. So, all right, so that covers, we got shock mounts in the bag there, got our anti-roll bar mounts. That comes with the bolts here, these guys. Rod ends, both sides, and these are rod ends, supply rod ends, chromoly, they're super nice. So my typical setting on this is about 5 threads on the outside of the jam nut. That's my position where I'll start that from, because that'll make it so when this guy drops in here, like so, you know that you've got some good clearance for this to move around, right? So about 5 threads on either side of the jam nut. That's where I live. That's where I normally adjust these things to. You'll find that there's still an awful lot of thread inside of there. So 1-inch 065 4130 tube. I get these weld bungs from Brazier because I still can't make them for as cheap as they sell them. Anti-roll bar, 1.5 3/16 wall with the signature Funkhauser race cars, whiz bang bitchin' billet anti-roll bar arms, looking fresh and clean, all welded up on that tube, that distance set. Our signature bearing housings and bushings, sometimes duplicated, or what's the right word? Sometimes copied, imitated, that's the right word. Often imitated. So maybe not, maybe so. But these guys are clear anodized, Delrin bushings in them. This is just the one I've been using for quite some time now. I feel these things have been tested and they last a long time. They're good. You know, mounting bolts there. These are the shock mounts, and it's just a just a regular grade 8, 3-inch long grade 8 bolt with washers. Got the little NAS washer right there so the bearing doesn't dig in. Let's see, there we go. Right there. The guy bolts in the back of the housing just like, or the back of the traction bar spring plate just like normal. Pair of traction bar spring plates with the cross member tab in it. You know, that's kind of the normal stuff. So that is the 68 to 74 Nova suspension hop-up kit. Oh wait, there's more. I jumped the gun. This cross member goes, this is the cross member that mounts the anti-roll bar. So you got your tabs there, cross member tabs there. And remember from the S10 video, if you watched it, that cross member tab has its own shape, its own contour. And that guy matches right there. So you'll notice that this guy is also tabbed out. It's gonna have the, you're gonna have 1-inch bolts there. This guy's tabbed out with the spacer that goes in between the housing. This one matches my 9-inch housing. I'm working on, I ordered a quick performance housing, so I'm actually gonna make a billet spacer for those guys too, just because there's so many quick performance housings out there. I think that they're a fantastic product, and 10 out of 10 recommend using those guys. I use them for their axles and stuff all the time. So, but I'm gonna make this bracket, you know, so you could put this together in your garage, or I was maybe thinking about setting something up where you could just purchase it from me already done. We'll kind of have to play that by ear, see what happens there. So moving forward, so there we go. So now I can finish that video, or finish that segment of this video. There is the 68 to 74 suspension hop-up kit. You're gonna relocate shocks, add an anti-roll bar, get all kinds of traction bar adjustments, and just like everything else, you can get these in 1/2-inch holes or get those in 3/4 holes. If you already have a Caltrac bar, totally fine with me. Just depends on what you want to do, depends on where you want to go. So let's move into the options. So we've got sliders. This is the conventional 1 3/4 offset slider that you can always purchase off the website. It'll also have the mounting brackets, because it doesn't do you any good if you can't mount them. So there's the offset ones that I just took off of this car, that I played at the beginning of this video in fast speed time warp if you have a GoPro. You know, bearings and axles, normal stuff. This guy sat outside a little bit and actually got a little bit of rust, a little tiny bit of surface rust. I think if you're doing an install on this stuff, like, and you live in like a humid area, it might be worth doing a little bit of some sort of corrosion preventative type stuff on this. Like, I don't know, maybe a little bit of grease or something like that. So you can also get it with a centered slider. That would mean that the springs were in the stock location. Me personally, I feel like if you're going this far, you probably should just relocate the springs. Like, it makes sense to grab that space that you can grab, especially because you're probably doing a mini tub, so you might as well just take advantage of all that. So, like I said, up to you though. So centered sliders or offset sliders, so you can just see how the bolt pattern, I just made the body wider. You can totally tell that the bolt pattern is still the same, but you can just see how much the spring will be offset. So what's nice is after you do this, you can actually switch back and forth if you had some sort of reason. I don't know what the reason would be, but you could in fact do that. So then you're gonna get slider bushings right there. These are already pressed in. And last but not least, so that covers all this, that's the slider option, so that covers that. But last but not least is, say you don't have a suspension on this car at all, and you're gonna go all the way from front to back, got the rest of the traction bar. So I've put some fresh new bolts in here, got the anti-rotation pin right there. These are the high adjustment brackets, so they've got 3 bolt holes in them. I also make this bracket right here, right? So this is just gonna give you more ground clearance, right? So you can get the street low profile one, kind of a copy of the Calvert deal. They do the same thing. You know, these boxes obviously are removable off the car. I got these springs secondhand, so I ended up just making my own spacers. But if you buy brand new springs, you're gonna get these spacers to take up the gap, because there's gonna be a 1-inch solid pin in there. That solid pin is what the spring floats on, and then what these rockers rock on, right? So this thing is, got this all sitting down here. Let's see if this one's, there you go. So that's sitting there on a pin. So there's a pin that goes through that steel, or through that steel pin goes through that aluminum bushing in the spring. Then you've got the rocker pivots, and then you've got these other spacers that sets that all up. So, but there's the bushings that you can expect, or the reducers that you expect. 5/8 bolts here. TIG welded bars, 4130 rod ends. These are rod end supply rod ends again. You're gonna have the bolt in the back, washers, and all the goodies. So this will set you up. This would be the entire suspension. So you order a set of springs, you order a set of springs, order a set of shocks, which I can supply the shock. It's based off of the same shock that I put on the S10 kit, which is that Viking D313, part number 19.5 or 19 3/4 extended length. Same part, or same shock, so same part number. So yeah, that kind of, I feel like that pretty much covers, this is what you can expect to see for parts coming on the car. I figured I was gonna set up my GoPro and I'm gonna reassemble this thing on the car, and anytime I hit a spot, I'm gonna put one piece together, stop, talk about what I did, put another piece together kind of thing. So Yeah, I think that these spacers are just awesome looking, just to get totally sidetracked. Yeah, it's nice. So, okay, well, let's put this thing back together. Okay, so now that we've finished up, we know where these anti-roll bar mounts are gonna go. Like I said, once you do a complete mock-up on this thing, like 10 out of 10, you should not be fully welding anything until the very end. Get this thing mocked up, make sure that stuff needs to be where it needs to be. If these guys are off a little bit, but the link arms are straight up and down, like I said, it's just because this entire structure is not perfect, right? It looks to be that the cars are, you know, I mean, you can tell, I showed you from my backed up on the video, obviously there's pinion center built into these cars, and this space is not the same from side to side. So the fact that this is off just 1/4 of an inch, to me, seems like it's more than acceptable. So let's move on to the shock mounts. I've found a little bit of the same discrepancy here. So if we just kind of go, we'll just eyeball the center there. Let's move this guy this way. You can see all the cool storage over there, Santa Claus up there. So let's go from the center of that bolt to there, right about 6 inches. This side, and so I picked this arbitrary hole. My guess is that it's probably in the same size. Like they probably stamped this frame rail out, and just which direction it gets bent is which side of the car it goes on. But my guess is that since the center isn't the same, that probably those positions could potentially not be the same. And double checking this measurement is in fact the case. This guy's 6.5. So the shocks on this car, I've had the shocks on this car, they're straight up and down, or really, really close to straight up and down, and they're not at different angles, so I know that the pieces fit. So there is just a little bit of discrepancy. I actually went ahead and measured off of, this is like the bump stop or something that was in here. That hole to the center line there is actually they're closer to the same measurement than the shock mounts were, or that other measurement was. So I think that just kind of proves these cars are not perfect. I mean, like, back up a little bit more. Look at how funny shaped the trunk floor is, so. It's not surprising. So if you've got your tape measure out and you're really digging in and you're measuring a lot of stuff, don't be worried. If you find a few things that are not 100% the same, just make sure that your anti-roll bar links are looking like they straight up and down where they need to be, and that your shocks are where they need to be. So that's what's most important, is that those pieces are where they need to be. So I'm gonna start by putting those spring boxes. I'm gonna put those springs and spring boxes back in. We already elongated the holes, which it doesn't even take much. Like, I'm gonna say that we maybe didn't even elongate them. I can't remember because it's been a couple of months. I went ahead and did get this new hardware. Hey Mike, where do we get hardware from? Does this come from Calvert?
Yep.
So
Racing, it's Summit part number.
Yeah, so I have a Summit part number that I'll attach into this, into the description, and I'll put it on the website. But these are super nice, like the new proper bolts, the new J-clip with fresh threads in them. Like, this is a no-brainer. I think, what are they, like 25 bucks or 40 bucks?
$50.
Okay, 50 bucks. So 50 bucks for new J-clips and bolts, like, that's cheap insurance, and they're readily available. Calvert's got them. So, like, I would strongly suggest grabbing a set of these guys. Maybe what I'll do is just, I'll just have a stock of them, because these cars could definitely use a new set. So, all right, let's start putting this thing back together. And yeah, let's do it. All right, so let's try this out. Got the time lapse running over there. So I figured I'll just kind of talk through this. This has obviously already been assembled before, so I'm cheating a little bit. But we'll grab these bolts out here. Everybody can make fun of me. I wear gloves because I work on the computer so much. Now my hands aren't tough. All the guys in the shop call me bitch mitts, which is not funny. Which is not funny, but okay, it's a little funny. Let's see here. I grab the right side. Negatory. Okay. This side. So you can tell too, this is all super movable and great. I bet that sounds rad on the microphone. This has got a nice 5/8 bolt in it, because we ended up making these pins because these springs were, remember I said I got these springs secondhand, so they were missing the pin. Your pin's gonna come with your new springs though, so that's how that's gonna work out. Already got this box all together. Got the alignment tab. Yeah, so earlier in the video, I think I mentioned that, oh, I slotted these holes. I'm gonna go with, I did not slot these holes at all. They look like they're totally normal. A couple threads in there. All right, so here's the deal is I'm not gonna tighten these all the way down yet because I wanna get this 100% mocked up. You can reach all these bolts when this thing is assembled and make sure your alignment is all good and happy, right? Look at that, everything threads together super nice because it's new. Okay. Still moves good. See, what's nice is since I put these new J-hooks in here, these bolts thread in easy. All right. There's that. Wheel the rear end housing in. So this housing also, you can buy this guy. You can buy this guy decked out just like this. Have the support on it. 3.5 inch diameter tubes, 2-inch perch right there. Dialed. Trying to bring the highest quality parts to this, highest quality parts at a reasonable price and make these things, make these cars perform. This transmission jack we've had since 2008, 2007 maybe, something like that. It's been around forever. It's like a OTC one. We had to put a washer on it so it doesn't fall out. Actually, we loaned it to somebody and they lost the handle. That's what it was. We loaned it to somebody and they lost the handle, and that's why we have this handle now. You can see it's been used enough. It used to be white. right there. It used to be painted. It's not even white anymore, which is incredible if you think about it. And this is this cheesy, it's just basically a hydraulic ram on a base. Like the transmission's so freaking high on this thing when you're trying to put it in, it's honestly terrible. So, but this is what we could afford back then, so this is what we had. And now it lives at my brother's house. Call it the super secret shop. Okay, I got the housing in place. Let's throw some sliders on because we need those to put the bearing in. Obviously, we've already got these slider brackets welded in place. You know, you're gonna put these 2 brackets on the slider body and then just loosely tighten those bolts down. They don't need to be super snug, but just snug enough that you can still move this around. That the cutout will register on the shackle pivot. Hold that guy up there flat, make sure this is all sitting as flat as it can. Tack weld this bracket on both sides, drop this down, weld this groove, weld what you can around it. Done. Easy peasy. Like I always say in all of my videos, make sure that you verify before you fully weld. How long does it take to just mock it up and make sure that it fits? I can tell you for sure it takes a whole hell of a lot longer to cut the stuff back off. Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
Because I've cut off plenty of things that I welded on wrong. So got all the hardware that this stuff comes with. Feel like you can put these bolts in any direction that you want to, up or down. I mean, bolt heads facing down, bolt heads facing up. Just preference, I suppose. I don't think it makes any difference. There's not any interference in there, so. Hopefully this camera angle works. It'll be interesting to watch this content, see what it looks like. Hopefully it's not terrible. All right, so another cool feature of these sliders is that all the mounting brackets are slotted slightly. So when you hold this guy up here, so you've got slot in the mounting bracket hole, and then just a little bit bigger than what it needs to be hole in the slider, but look how much room you have to move this stuff around, right? So I'm just gonna leave this guy loose, put the spring in it. I won't be able to get to these 2 inner bolts, but I will be able to get to snug these outer bolts when I go to put the spring in. So that's just another little a little tech tip for doing some assembly work. Let's bump this up a little bit. Nope, that's down. You can see Mike back there. Okay, let's keep on assembling. Sorry, I keep looking at the camera like I'm a dork. Awesome. All right, put the springs in all the rest of the way. Put the axle through first. Well, actually, it's not really the axle. I guess the axle is the bolt. But you put the sleeve in there first. The little 5/8 sleeve is just to hold the bearings apart so the bearings contact the slider at the right angle. All right, and so this thing fits in there great. Got a little bit of movement there. Make it so I can drop this housing down next and then put the rest of the kit together. So again, I'm just gonna leave this stuff loose because I'm gonna do I wanna put this all together and make sure everything is happy. All right, so we got a little bit of, got some movement there. Let's lower this guy down. So as many of you guys know, the Chevy 2s, the early cars, would move the wheel and tire forward in the wheel and tire rearward in the wheel hole. So all of the housing perches, the through bolt style housing perches have both holes. So make sure you're putting that thing back together on the proper hole if you have a housing that came from me or if you're using those perches. Right, just a little So yeah, like I was saying, make sure you get that thing in the right hole. I hit the wrong button, turn the dang camera off. Whoops. Still new. So when you lower the jack down, make sure you lower it down all at once so it comes crashing down at warp speed. That's the proper way to lower the jack. Make sure you got your fingers in the way. Again, because that's the proper way to do it. One other little side note on this too, a lot of Calvert springs, oh, let's adjust that camera angle. You can't see hardly anything. I wonder if I'll edit this out. There we go, much better. So another little side note, a lot of Calvert springs, the center pin or the bolt is a cap screw that they've ground down to make it 1/2 inch. To me, I think that's, I'm not sure why they did it. I'm sure somebody has a reason somewhere. I don't know what that reason is. I speculate that there's a reason. So what I've done is, like, these springs just have a regular 3/8 24 cap screw. The head on a 3/8 cap screw is 9/16. So like my lowering blocks, the hole in the bottom is 9/16. The hole in these perches, I send these perches with the hole at 1/2 inch. So if you're gonna run my lowering blocks or similar or something like that, you will have to set them to 9/16. But it's always easier to go bigger, it's harder to go smaller. So yeah, these springs, I got these secondhand. So I just put a fresh set of bolts in them, ditched that sanded head bolt, and put a fresh bolt in there. So it's kind of a bit of a ramble, but that's something that maybe you need to, maybe you'll run across or whatever. Oh, put it in the right hole. There we go. Struggle, struggle, struggle. Didn't need to. Just put them in the right holes. Okay. See how nice that how nice that thing locked down in place. So what I think is cool about these perches, this video is going to be 50 minutes long. I'm never going to get done. The pin that's welded into the perch, the guide pin, what is cool about it is it locks the perch in place on the spring. So you've got an additional mechanism for locking the spring in place, and it's going to help center it and all of the things, right? So this is these aren't too long. You can see that they don't protrude past the bottom of the spring, so they're not going to limit the clamping force. They're going to stay there. You know, it's going to leave you that gap there to have clamping force, but it locks into that spring. I'm sure in the video just now, you heard when it snapped down, how well that thing registers into place, which I really like. It's one of the design principles of these housing perches. So with a lot of angle in the spring though, what you're going to find is you may have to trim the inside edges these on the housing perches, because the springs are now at an angle, right? There's still a little bit of angle here, but not nearly as much because they're offset this 1.75. You may have to come in here with a flat disc or a sander and just make these edges flat. It would be, you know, it's gonna want to hit that one, right? It's gonna be this way. It's gonna hit this one and that one, right? You may have to just flatten those edges a little bit. Don't be afraid to do that. That's not a problem. Just make sure that you can still pinch it all together and everything's still safe, right? That's really all that matters. Next up. Dude, you found a torque wrench.
I found a torque wrench. You gotta left it upstairs.
Next up is these guys. And all their beauty. So I have a bolt kit on the website for these two. Half inch bolts, grade 8, fine thread, so 1/2 inch 20, with hard washers and nylocks. I think it's $50 for the set of bolts. They're 3 3/4 is what seems to be the magic length for these guys. The register right there. The register is big enough for the whole nut. So you don't have to knock the edges off the nut or anything like that. It just goes in there. Put the washer in, nut in there. Maybe lost the nut. Okay, the thing's in there. It's okay. We'll adapt and overcome. There we go. That's one. The bolt kits on the website, I have those in stock. And if you've bought grade 8 bolts recently, you know that that's actually a pretty decent deal for what you're getting there. Especially because of the actual right size. I've taken these bolts in and out like quite a few times, so there's almost like a little tiny burr on that particular one. So if I had fresh bolts, this thing would just slam right together. But like I said, it's been taken apart quite a few times now. Well, that's okay. Just for YouTube, using old hardware. I mean, the hardware hasn't actually been like cycled and used in a race car configuration, but it's been taken on and off a whole bunch of times. Because this has been mocked up at the shop a number of times too. When we were getting all the stuff right, this is the same ones. Oh, that one's got a little burr on it. I'm not too proud. Use a hammer. Watch that one fall out. No, it's still good. There we go. So what do you think, dude? Do you think they're going to turn the power back on today? If it was based on the wind that's here, I would say no.
Well, it depends on where they get the reading from. If they're getting their reading from the top of the mountain over there.
Yeah. Oh, they'd never turn it back on then?
Yeah.
Well, it says here that it's windy. Can't have that.
I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I am too. Otherwise, we're boxing boxes tomorrow with the generator. Which will be interesting, but we could do it, I believe. Okay, snug these up just a little bit. Make a whole bunch of racket with the air ratchet. So I'm going to snug these guys up, but I'm not really looking to tighten the snot out of them. I'm going to use this ultra old school Craftsman air ratchet. It's probably gonna be so loud it'll be intolerable, but it's what I got. Oh yeah, I bet that's really loud. It blows right in the microphone. So kind of just jumping around, snugging. Okay, that's not gonna move. At least it's not gonna fall off. Okay, cross member. So remember, the end matches the spring plate, the traction bar spring plate. Just like that. Okay. One bolt in there. Try the washer again. What's cool is this video is in real time. It kind of gives you an idea of how serviceable it really is, which I think is cool. We work on race cars a lot, right? You're always doing something. All right, got that guy on there. So I'm just going to snug these 3/8 bolts by hand, just so I can kind of feel. Feels like I got a little bit of tension in it. Then I'm gonna loosen up the spring plates. But I lost all my wrenches.
Those pesky kids with wrenches.
There it is. Okay. Make this video needlessly long just looking for tools. So I just want to feel kind of how much tension I'm fighting with this thing. Right this second, basically none. It's the beauty of it all being steel, it's pliable. It's going together no problem. Oh yeah, that's nice. No problems. Okay, got those snug. Good to go there. Still see we got movement there. Still got movement there. All right, let's put the anti-roll bar on. So a little tip, if you're gonna have this stuff anodized, if you're gonna have this stuff powder coated, this is the bearing surface on this end. If you put powder coat in there, it's not gonna turn anymore. So I'm gonna be offering kits here pretty soon. Everything on the website pretty soon here is gonna be offered powder coated. I've been working closely with ECP Powder Coat. Those guys are fantastic. Shout out to them. And I've got a color that I really like, and they put it on in such a way that the coating is very, very smooth and nice. It looks fantastic, but it's not so thick that you can't reassemble it. So what was explained to me is that you can heat the parts up, and when you put the powder on, that the heat from the part will help to melt it slightly, and you can get some additional buildup. So powder coat has an electrostatic charge. One side's negative, one side's positive, so it makes it so it attracts, and that's what helps to stick the powder, or so I've been told. And if you heat the part up, like I was saying earlier, you heat the part up, you can put more on before it just doesn't stick. So they put the stuff on cold. I want adequate coating and coverage for rust and corrosion preventance, but I want to be able to put the stuff back together after the fact, and there just isn't a tremendous amount of tolerance. I build in some tolerance, but not enough for powder, like thick powder coat. So yeah, coming up here soon, that's how that's going to be. We're going to be doing every part on the website will be able to be ordered powder coated or raw. Maybe not raw, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Get the point though. So I'm just gonna snug this guy up. Kind of just alternate back and forth. You can use power tools if you like. I just kind of like to feel what's going on when I'm assembling this stuff. Call me picky, whatever. I think it's good practice. See how this thing's still just moving nice. Still moving nice. That's on there tight. Ooh, that's nice. So look, there's a little bit of tension in there. You're gonna want a little bit. You don't want this thing just flopping in the breeze, because it's just gonna wear the bushings out really fast. And honestly, even then, they're Delrin. They're probably gonna take a pretty long time to wear out, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. We'll throw these traction bars back on. I'm just going to go ahead and put them in the fourth hole from the top. Roll that. So a little trick on these traction bars too. Flip this guy around. So make sure when you put this together that you have, I put them together where you can just barely see it. There it goes. I have like no threads, maybe one thread sticking out of the end of the jam nut. And then if we, yeah, you can see basically no threads sticking out of the end of the jam nut. So you want to make sure that if you bury the rod ends on both sides of the traction bar when you put this thing together, that means when you go to thread this thing apart, in and out, that means it'll be moving equally. If you've got 4 threads showing here, no threads showing there, you're gonna start, and you put the bolt through it and you lock it down, when you adjust this guy in and out, this side's always gonna have more threads sticking out than that side. They're never gonna equalize each other. Just a little tangent-y side note. Back up here, there we go, okay. Like I said, I'm just using the fourth hole from the, I guess it's the second hole from the bottom, or fourth hole as viewed from the top. Certainly going to have adequate angle. Got that. Let's do the link arms. So if you're using Calvert springs, these are -1 springs. There's no reason to, in my opinion, there's no reason to use the stock height ones. They inevitably seem like they're going to be too high. So just use the -1s. These bars will be perfectly sized and length. I've got 5 threads showing at each end. Doesn't matter, left to the top, right to the top, whatever you want. It's irrelevant. I like to make sure that all my bolts face the same way too. So like I just put this together, all the heads of the bolts are going in that way. All the heads of the bolts are going in that same way. It's just little things like that that ultimately look a little nicer. It appeals to my OCD. Okay, got those guys in. So that is reassembled. So at this point, I think I'm gonna go ahead and I just wanna loosen these up just a little bit, make sure that's all happy. And then I will go ahead and tighten the front box bolts. So get out the noisy air ratchet again. We'll just loosen these spring perch bolts up just a smidge. Make sure that's not putting any unneeded tension. I can turn that bolt by hand. Actually, I can turn that one by hand. Can I turn this one? Nope, this one's tight. That one is loose. Okay, all 4 of those are loose now. They're not loose, but you know, they're not I can rotate them. Rotate that one. Definitely rotate that one. Rotate that one. Okay. So that's good there. So let's tighten up these front spring boxes. And then we'll tighten up the sliders. Gotta go the right direction here. Okay. Okay. All right, got those sliders looking happy, so I'm just gonna tighten these there. Got the wrench stuck. Stupid ass wind.
Yep.
The air hose is like just long enough that it's hard to use. Okay, at that. Okay, that's good. Tighten these guys up, and that's a wrap. This is all put back together. There's that. Okay, I only got one more slider bolt to tighten up because it's inside of the slider body. So let's grab a ratchet. and a wrench. And this thing's all back together. I guess we should put the bottom plate back on there. That's probably worthwhile. Uh-oh, microphone's almost dead. Microphone's saying, hey, you talk too much. So that's pretty funny, right? All right, you guys can figure out, like, there's this bolt right here. Still needs to be tightened. Let's tighten it with a wrench and a socket. So we're putting this guy on right here. I send this, we set them up in the shop, got these little bitty NAS washers right there. Look really nice. A thin nylock, because there's not a lot of space in there. You got these slotted holes. It's not too bad to put together. Of course, I already dropped the nylock. Or the washer, rather. It's not a surprise. "32 minutes. So I guess that's like 40 minutes total or so, 45 minutes total to put this back together. It's not too bad. Not too bad at all. It's not too pretty bad. So you can kind of see, just put these guys back together. Use those little NAS washers because they look awesome. I have to admit, they're definitely tight. This little tab on the bottom, it's definitely tight on the nut, but it does in fact fit in there. So a little tiny bit of patience. You almost have to kind of line this thing up first, get the washer on there, and then fish the nut on there. If I stared at it, I could see better. So this is an older plate. I've since put that bolt hole further away in the bracket because it is so dang tight in there. There's just not a lot of clearance. It will go though, because I took it off. There we go. It's definitely a tight fit, but like I said, the new ones are better because I moved this bolt hole up in this bracket. I think the orange or the gold and the blue actually looks really cool. I've loved anodized parts ever since I was a kid, getting BMX parts. You know, they would come whatever purple, or the old like Haro TI or whatever was purple, and then the other one was blue. Like, I always loved that. Loved anodized parts ever since I was a kid. It's hard not to like them. Okay, I'm gonna put this last one in, and then we'll just do a little overview, and yeah, this is it. Done and done. Let's just drop everything. Okay, so that's it. I'll turn this thing back around. Just do a little last scan. So there you go, offset sliders. I need to still tighten up this axle, but whatever, it's fine. I didn't know if I was gonna need to take the spring back out. But you can see I just went through, I put the springs in loose, tightened the spring plates down just a little bit. Wasn't crazy, just a little bit. Got this cross member in, got the anti-roll bar in, tightened this down in such a way that I knew that it was holding. I just need to come back with a wrench and just tighten these guys down. I still tighten that stuff down by hand. I just like the feel of it. And then came back. I will torque these bolts, but I don't have my easy torque wrench to use. So 1/2-inch bolts are like 90 foot-pounds or something like that, depending on what you're using, depending on what grade it is and all that good stuff. So when in doubt, just look up the torque spec for the bolt. So that's easy. I got those things on the website. Oh, let's cover this. Last but not least.
Bolt Depot has a nice, easy chart.
Oh, Mike's saying that Bolt Depot has a chart. So here is the shock mount right here. Let's go ahead and put that thing on last but not least. Okay. If I remember properly, it goes in with a Viking shock. The D313 can go in this hole or it can go in this hole. So this bolt on the inside though is pretty close. So you may end up in a situation where you've got to put the bolts in this opposite way, which is no big deal. Just go like so. Does the same job. Right? Let's flip this guy around. So the D313 smooth body, same shock. So there you go. So this guy is like that, and you can see that the upper shock mount, bada bing, bada bam, right there. Minimum angle going on. It's going to dodge that, no problem. But the D means smooth body, C means coil over. For anybody that is looking for what that means, it's on the Viking website too. So. Yeah, here's all your hardware. This is all back installed. I make this thing, I can do this all set up like this. I put these perches in on these housings based on a Calvert -1 spring and based on an engine transmission angle of 3 degrees headed downhill. Or I can just send them loose, or I can send them tacked. You know, it's just really like, what do you want to do? Yeah, so that kind of wraps that up. That's putting this guy back together. And gosh, I don't know what else to cover here. You know, you're gonna have to do the welding and stuff, but like imagine if this thing was mocked up. This is just, you know, everything was put together. You could put this shock on your bracket right here, put the shock up there with the bracket at the top, make sure that that all lined up. Same thing with the anti-roll bar. So check it out. I mean, you can see how straight up and down that link arm is. And that link arm. And this is built on a jig. This is equidistant here. And this is equidistant here. And the anti-roll bar is in the right spot. So, yeah. All right, so I got this thing all the way back together. I'm just gonna kind of cover this a little bit. So, Mike, would you hold the angle here? So what I found is that, so this is a 2.5-inch brake offset. So it's a 2.5 big Ford new style ends, 3/8 bolts. So what I found is that the wheel tub is a good distance. So let's call it, this is gonna be an ugly video, but you're just gonna have to. You're gonna hold the tape measure? Okay, Mike's gonna hold the tape measure. I'm just gonna tilt it, aim it. All right, so to the wheel tub, we got 7 3/8. If we roll it to go to this section right there. Just gonna go a little bit forward. And we've got 7 inches. And then let's go to this back section right here. And you can kind of tell that these things are in there pretty gosh darn good. So we got 7 inches there, right? Oh, can't see. Yeah, 7 inches right there. But if we roll down to where we're in line with the spring, you can see why I ended up needing help here. Trying to do this with 2 people, or one by myself was difficult. So you're gonna see that the spring is still the limiting factor. The spring is at 6 inches. And then if we measure the front of the spring, flip this around. So we're gonna measure there to there, like right at 6 1/4. So the spring is still the limiting factor. The spring is still in the way. I've moved that, I've offset the back of this guy 1 3/4 inches. The pocket is slotted, and so it's moved over as much as it can. So let's grab that L bracket one more time. So now you know that the spring is the limiting factor. 6 inches is what we can fit to the inside. So I'm back on this flange again. I'm gonna go to this wheelhouse right here. If you wanna trim this out, you can, that's up to you. But to the wheelhouse, we're sitting right at 7 inches. So we have 7 inches from the face of the flange to this outer wheelhouse. If you come down just a little bit, you got just a hint more to the to this actual lip. It looks like it's about 7 1/2. So you got just a little bit of room. So from the wheel flange outboard, you got 7 inches. The wheel flange inboard, you got 6 inches. So that's a total, drum roll please, of 13 inches. So a 12-inch wheel will fit on this car, but it's gonna have to be dead nuts, and you're probably gonna have to do some trimming on that inner wheelhouse. So I'm gonna draw up a little schematic and kind of show you guys where I think it should be and what I think it should be for a backspace on a wheel. So I'm gonna also measure the passenger side just to verify that it's at least as big as this one. That's always a good plan, because this shit can be different. So measure both sides, buy your wheels once. So, okay, that's it. All right, I'll get my wheel back. This is way easier. Okay. Yep, 7 1/4. Sorry, dude.
It's okay.
7.
And then go all the way to the back.
Go all the way to the back. 7 3/16 or something like that. Okay, let's double check the outboard side. 7 inches. So that's the same there. Now let's just check the spring. Can you go down just a little more? There we go. This side is 6 1/8. So it's just a smidge different. And 6 1/4. So it is virtually identical side to side. So, all right, I'm gonna just put together, that's what I'll do. I'll go on SolidWorks, draw up this wheel mount surface, put those little squares in it, do a little imaginary piece so you can see where the wheels go. Can we just throw this on there one last time for the wheel mount surface? It should be, I'm pretty sure it's 55. It is 55 3/4. So, okay. 55 3/4. I know that I have that math somewhere. So I'll go ahead and make that drawing too, and I'll add that in. Thanks for following along. This video is gonna be an hour long, it looks like, but that's okay because there's a lot of information in it. And I figure you're probably not just watching this because I have, all the jokes and I'm super entertaining. You would probably watch something, else. You would not be watching me. So this is instructional. Hopefully it's helpful. Hopefully you learned something. If not, well, can't win them all. So until next time, YouTube, I'll catch you guys later.